Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. This is Fame with Tiffany Renee, Freedom of Artistic Means of Expression. I am Tiffany Renee. If you have been here before, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Glad to have you. I'm always excited to see new people stop in and comment and subscribe and do all those wonderful things. So please feel free. Like, share, subscribe. If the spirit moves you to do so. I love reading comments. This is a safe space, so no negativity here. I want this to be an open, loving community where we talk about quantum physics, metaphysics. We talk about the spirit, spirituality, the mind, frequency, vibrations, all those things to help enlighten us and make our life better. And yes, I've done a couple of videos in this outfit because it is New Year's Eve right now when this video is being recorded. And so all of you out there who celebrate New Year's Roman calendar, Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope you're all having a great, safe New Year's Eve and New Year's and going into 2022. So I wanted to do my final set of videos for the year because I was inspired to talk about a few more things before the year closed out, things that have come up a lot in my own life and in the lives of the collective and just even people in my own circle that I've observed. And one thing that I want to talk about, hopefully this video will not be ridiculously long, fingers crossed, right? This is about relationships, right? But it's about me in particular. And I feel like this might be a good time to have an updated conversation about it. I had a conversation or a video up about this maybe last year about being single or about relationships and manifestations, something like that. I think it was like a part 1 and part 2. So feel free to check that out. I think I recorded them last year, I think it was. I wanted to do another one about me in particular, not just about relationships in general, but about me. And the funny thing is, the catch is that there is no relationship to talk about. So it's a relationship video about me without a relationship. And this is going to be called What I've Learned Being Single for a Decade. Now, if you haven't watched my previous video about relationships in general, that's fine. I will give you a brief intro to me. I had my last relationship in 2012. He was one of my closest friends for years, like for almost a decade, for like 8 years. We were really good friends. And I think we did it one time for 3 days and then that was it. And then maybe in like maybe 2007, I think it was, or 2008. And then we got back together in 2012. And that was the first time we actually had like a real relationship. And didn't work out for a multitude of reasons. You know, we were different people. And he wasn't the same person who he was, 3-4 years earlier, and even 8 years earlier. You know, he was just different and blessed, you know what I mean? And I was also a different person as well, and it just didn't work out. After that, it actually blew up. Like it was a very explosive relationship, and it was only one of 2 really bad breakups that I had. And I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of relationships anyway, but the few that I did have were relatively amicable, whether they broke up with me or I broke up with them, or even if I was just dating someone and not actually in a committed relationship, but we were just dating, kind of heading towards that. If I ended it, still relatively amicable, When I say amicable, I mean there was no big brouhaha. There was like no drama with it. It was just like, okay, just ties are being severed, right? There was only two that were really explosive, and one was in 2010, and then my last one in 2012, and both had a really big impact. The one in 2010 had a bigger impact on me negatively because I was in a different state. I had moved across the country to be with this person. It was just a whole mess, right? And 5 days after I got there, I was dumped. I know, right? 5 days after I had moved my entire life, 800 miles, gave up my friends, my job, everything, my apartment, and then moved to this other state to be with this person. And then 5 days later, I was dumped. And I was dumped because I was told I was too nice. Real talk. Okay. This person dumped me because I was too nice. And so, I know, right? So that does a number on your psyche. I knew nothing about law of attraction at this point until 2012 when I did move back to Indiana. And by that time I was dating my friend at the time, and he had heard about it. And, we were starting to talk about it more and, trying to integrate that into our life. And then a friend of mine introduced me to it, and I started using it. And so he and I broke up, big explosive fight. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never had a breakup like that before. So it was a bit traumatizing, in that aspect when it came to romantic relationships, as was the one prior, to him in 2010. So when I put him out, because it was my apartment, he lived with me, and that was the first time we had ever lived together, and only the second time I had ever lived with anyone in any relationship. So after he moved out, and he, took his stuff with him, the bed was his, so he took his bed and all that. So I slept on the couch for 6 months until I was able to afford to kind of get a bedroom set and piece everything and put my life together without him, and learn how to pay rent by myself again, without him, because the whole time I had lived there, we split the rent and that was it. I paid for everything else. But it was a very lopsided relationship. It was relatively toxic in its own way. And after we broke up, I had asked myself one question that I had never asked myself before. And that was, what am I doing that is causing me to attract the same type of people into my life time and time again, that ends in the same crappy relationship? It was like I was having the same relationships, just with different people. They were not loving relationships. They were not authentic relationships. They were not trusting. Even if I trusted them, they were still had their guard up about me, for no real reason. Not because of anything that I did to warrant them to not trust me, but it's just their own personal baggage. And it was just always ending poorly. I was always doing more in the relationship. I was always being used and taken advantage of, and I was unappreciated, and everything was always my fault. I was being gaslit all the time, and I was always the one planning dates, planning outings. I paid for a lot of things in relationships, or if they paid, it was always to throw it back in my face about how much they paid for our dinner or the gifts that they bought me, or if I got any. I always remembered them on their birthdays and Valentine's Day and all that type of stuff, and they never got me anything. Like it was just always a very, very lopsided relationship. And after my last breakup, we broke up Memorial Day weekend, Memorial weekend of 2012. So coming up on a decade now, real soon already. And I sat down and I really thought about it after he had moved out. And I just had to ask myself that question, like, what is going on with me? How am I attracting? If law of attraction is real, why am I attracting these circumstances? And I came to a conclusion that the common denominator is me. I'm in all of these relationships. I'm dealing with all of these people. So what's going on? What's happening? It's got to be something that I'm attracting. There's something about me that's bringing these people in my life. And that's kind of where it started for me. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to take like 6 months to a year, and I'm just not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to date anybody. And now don't get it twisted here. I wasn't like highly sought after or anything like that. So I don't want to paint the picture that I was dating constantly, because I was not. It would be extremely long periods of time, blocks of time where I would be single and just not be talking to anybody. Or there would be like a block of time where I would, be dating, here and there. Or even if we weren't serious, just casually seeing each other. And then there would be really, really long dry spells. Okay. So I don't want to paint the picture that I was consistently seeing somebody all the time, because that is not the case. Okay. And so to give you some backstory, I did not grow up here. I was born in the United States, and until I was 8 years old. When I was 8 years old, it was a custody thing, and my dad had lived in the middle. He was living in the Middle East after he had got out of the military. So he lived overseas for about a year, and then me and my brother had to move over there with him. And so just that alone was a big culture shock. And we moved, of all places, was to Saudi Arabia. And I may have mentioned this in previous videos, but because I grew up in Saudi Arabia from the age of 8 to the age of 16, it's changed a lot over the last 20 years. So like women can drive now, and you can kind of mix up a little bit more and things like that. But it was very, very different 20 years ago. Like, you couldn't drive as a woman. Everything was still separated. You didn't date. You didn't talk to men. The whole guardianship thing was still in place, and it's it's partially been removed now, but you needed to be with a male escort to travel. You needed male permission to do every single thing. You needed permission from the male who was the head of your household, right? And like, that's just how life was. It wasn't, you know what I mean? That's just how life was there. And obviously I was a kid, so I just adopted it. And so there was no dating. You don't talk about it. You talk about marriage. You're groomed to be a wife. Okay. You're not groomed to be somebody's girlfriend or somebody's side chick or somebody's boo thing. That just didn't, absolutely not. You know what I mean? So I didn't know how to date. So I moved back here when I was 16, and I went to high school, and that was the first time I had been in school since I was 8 years old with boys. Like, I was always in a private school with only girls. You know what I mean? So that freaked me out. Just the fact that I had to go to school with boys and not have my face covered. I'd still had my hair covered at the time. But and people thought I was odd. They thought I was weird. They didn't know how to approach me. I was one of the few students who was, wearing a hijab, and just some people were cool, some people were cruel, some, especially after 9/11 happened. It was just a bunch of weird stuff. So I just had a really weird dynamic with the male species, okay? And I never felt comfortable around guys. I just felt really weird. And so my junior year in high school, obviously I was older than everybody because I had to start as a freshman when I was 16 years old, coming back from another country. All of my report cards were in Arabic. Everything was in Arabic. All of my school files, they didn't know what to do with me. They said, just put her as a freshman in high school. I'm like 16 and everyone else is like 13 and 14. So I was already always older than everyone in my class, in my grade. And so I graduated high school when I was 20 years old. Right. Okay. So I'm coming back from Saudi Arabia at 16 years old. Most teenagers here in the West, they've got their driver's permit. Some of them already have their driver's license. They've had maybe their first boyfriend or girlfriend already. They've had their first kids. They've done all these type of things. And that just wasn't my life experience. Okay. And so I did ultimately, end up getting a job, but my junior year in high school, things got a little bit better because I became a football manager on the football team and for freshman, JV, and varsity. And I met some of my really closest friends there doing that. And we were football managers. And we helped out the trainers and we helped out the coaches and we got to know the football players. And when you're around the boys all the time, especially in the summer doing two-a-days, you become close. You know what I mean? And you just, start to, you see each other in the hallways now that all of a sudden you're not invisible. They know who you are now. You know what I mean? Because I would feel like I was invisible. I think I stood out for the wrong reasons, in my opinion, because people thought I was weird. They didn't know I spoke English. It was just, it was a mess, right? So I was able to be a little bit more comfortable around the male species, right? Around the opposite sex. So it was very interesting. And I became cool with them. And then I had my first boyfriend when I was 19, my junior year, after he was a friend of mine. We also worked together when we went to school together, and we ended up going, he asked me to be his date for prom. It was his senior prom and it was my junior prom. And so I went. There was, obviously my first prom, got dressed up and all that stuff. And we had the stretch limo. He paid for everything. And because he was cool people, we were already really good friends anyway. So it was really nice. We had a fun time. And I just thought, okay, well, we had such a good time. And I was like, well, hey, want to be my boyfriend? So I asked him to be my boyfriend. And he said, yeah. And we were together until, that was like May or something. We hung out all summer until about maybe December. Yeah, like he had even gone off to college in another city. And it was like a week before my birthday or a week after, something like that, around winter break. We talked on the phone and he was like, yeah, I think I want to break up. And he was like, I didn't really necessarily want a girlfriend yet because I knew I was going off to college, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings. And we were really good friends anyway. So I was like, okay, sure, And I was like, okay. So I was crushed because it was my first breakup. Like, all right. Because he was my first boyfriend. And it was so innocent. All we did was like hold hands and hug and like kiss. Like that's all we ever did. It was really, really cute. And so I was 19 and I was just like devastated, you know what I mean? And crying, whatever, and all that stuff. So that was my introduction to relationship life, right? And then I had another boyfriend like my senior year, like in February or March. And that was when I was 20. I had already turned 20 by that time. And I'm still cool with his ex-sister-in-law. But that was a hot mess. I don't even know what that was. It was like, we were together to me. Like he told me that I was his girlfriend, but then he would tell other people that we weren't together. It was that type of situation. And it was really embarrassing because he would like see some of the people who I went to school with. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't in school anymore, but like it was embarrassing. I don't know. And to have people like, oh, well, so-and-so, because he was a neighborhood kid. He's like, oh, so-and-so. Oh, well, is he your boyfriend? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, really? Because he told us that he was single and he's whatever. It was that. And I was just like, okay, why are you telling people that? But because I was very naive, so passive aggressive, didn't know anything, super duper trusting, knew nothing about game or anything that sometimes guys will try to run on you, knew nothing about that at all, not in the least. And so I accepted whatever, you know what I mean? I took everything for face value. And so he was actually my first, and I was 20 years old. And it sucked. It was horrible, which was really sad because it sucked. And because it sucked, I was like, I do not ever want to do this again. And I did it for a while. Like, while we were together, yeah, but it was always I just never enjoyed it. Like I always thought, this is what sex is. Sex is overrated. Like, I waited 20 years for this. Like, this is what the hype was. This is gross. Like, this is, I don't get the hype. I don't see why women like this. Like, it's horrible. Like, every time. Every time we would have sex, I just thought it was horrible. And so I just didn't for like a few months after he and I broke up. And before I went off to college, after I graduated high school, um, I did meet this one guy. And back then, you had like chat lines and you had something called like Black Planet. I don't know if you, that's a throwback. Do y'all remember Black Planet? This is even like around the time that MySpace was like coming out. You know what I mean? But and that's how kind of like you met people like on the phone chat line. Like what was it called? Like Live Links. Y'all remember? Y'all remember that? This is throwback, okay? Because there was no social media. There was none of that, okay? You had Live Links and you had Black Planet and you had Mente, okay? You had MySpace. You had things like that. That's how you hooked up with people. So you would meet people online like that, and it would be a hit or a miss. You know what I'm saying? And overall, like this guy, we started seeing each other like just the summer before I went off to college. That was a mess because after I did go off to college, I was still calling him and like, we would have relations, whatever. And I hated it still. Like it was still horrible. And because he was like only the second guy I had ever been with, and it was horrible to me. And I found out that he was married. And it was like, oh, so then a lot of light bulbs started going off. Like, oh, okay, that's why I only see you at night. That's why it always had to be like at your art studio. Like it was just things like that. Okay. Now I know I'm telling you a lot because I just wanted to set up the premise of my dating life, really, because that's what this video was about. And I didn't have a lot of guidance. I'll just put it that way. Like no one was really telling me or teaching me how to date because the focus wasn't about that. Like I just feel like the people around me and just kind of forgot, like the other adults around me forgot that, hey, remember, fam, that I was in a whole nother country separated from men for majority of my life, right? For 8 years, like from the age of 8 to the age of 16. Like I wasn't watching TV. We weren't allowed to watch TV. And then there was no sex scenes. There was no whatever. Like you just didn't watch stuff. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while, go to our friend's house. They might have like some of our American friends who were there and they may have a video or certain music videos or whatever. But I didn't really know what that was. I had this idealized version based on the few movies and few TV shows that I did see in like magazines, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I didn't know really what relationships were about. I didn't know what that dynamic of dating. I didn't know. I was so naive. And because of that, I was taken advantage of a lot. I just believed everything. I believed every line. I trusted everybody. And, I would get suckered in to being wooed. And I was taken advantage a lot, whether it was, emotionally, sexually, financially, like whatever. I was taken advantage of a lot. And in hindsight, I wish that there had been more, that I had received more guidance in that capacity, because a lot of those mistakes could have been avoided. A lot of those train wrecks could have just not have existed. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but you live and you learn. Trial and error. That's just kind of I had to kind of go through life and just figure out and kind of navigate my own way through Western civilization again, Western culture again. And so, I got to college. I did have a couple of boyfriends, not in college, they didn't go to my school, but they lived like I went to school in Southern Indiana. That's why I moved to Indiana, was for college. I moved here for that. And so in Indianapolis, I had boyfriends and they would drive, to my school and see me. And I had 2 boyfriends during the whole 4 years I had been in college. And each one only lasted less than a year, each one. You know what I mean? Maybe 6 months to maybe 6 to 8 months or so. And that was it. You know what I mean? But I never like slept with anybody who went to my school. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's, that happens when you go to college. Okay. But I just never did. Have I kissed and made out with somebody? Yeah. From college? Sure. Absolutely. But never had like any relations or anything. I did like somebody. I liked a guy who was there, and I told him I had a crush on him. And I think it was very obvious that I did. And because if it was his birthday, I would like buy him balloons and buy him candy. You know what I mean? Just doing the absolute most because I didn't know how to date. So I just did whatever. I equated dating as to like courtesy, like just common courtesy and just nice things that you just do for people, just for being kind. You know what I mean? And I think that probably sent the wrong signal to the guys. And they were just kind of like, oh, okay, she's clueless. Let's full speed ahead. I think it did that. Whatever. But this guy turned me down. The real reason I think was because he had a girlfriend back home and didn't want to tell me. But the reason that I was given was, and he was African American, and he told me that I was not hood enough for him. Some of my friends who may be watching this, you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I was actually told to my face that I was not hood enough to be with him. That was a blow, because that was a really big blow, because that was just another layer added on to me feeling like I'm not good enough for somebody, right? I'm not good enough to be loved, right? And obviously a lot of that, also kind of stemmed from childhood and just, childhood trauma and stuff like that, where you come up with this narrative that you're not lovable and that you just deserve pain and suffering and that you deserve to be punished. You're not lovable. You're not deserving of happiness. Like, you just have these programs and narratives that come up that are developed in your subconscious mind from your surroundings and from your life experiences, especially as a kid. So I already had those programs running and I didn't even know that I had them running. And then add all this rejection from, the dating scene. I was friend zoned a lot because I was always like, oh my God, you're like so funny. You're so nice. I just love you so much. But it just kind of was like, but clearly the energetic undertone was that, but you like sister, you like family, you like my sister, so I was in friend zoned a whole lot. Right. And the people who were interested in me sometimes, it was like, are you kidding me? Like, just so off the radar. I don't want to just be like, they weren't my type, but it was just like, no, like, you're not even not my type in any capacity. Like, there's no way we would be compatible. Like, your lifestyle and your whatever things that you got going on and what you like, has nothing. We would not mesh at all. Oil and water type of thing. Okay. So this wasn't a shallow, not my type. This was a much deeper, we ain't compatible type of situation. And so fast forward to me leaving college, and I did, have a couple of relationships, throughout, the time from 2007 when I graduated. I saw different people, started, dating a little bit, dating chat line or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And you meet people, get taken advantage of, you meet people, get taken advantage of, you know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, what's going on? Again, like thinking that it's me. I'm the problem. And I'm thinking, I haven't done anything to these guys to make them want to treat me like that, or to make them want to use me like this, or like just flat out lie to me just so they could maybe get the cookies, I suppose, and then disappear. I'm like, I didn't do anything to them. I didn't hurt them. I didn't lie to them. I didn't do anything wrong to them. Like, why would they want to do that? Like, why would someone want to make me like a one night stand type of situation? I just didn't understand that. Like, if we talked and we hung out, we were talking on the phone, we see each other, and then all of a sudden, we get close, some naked nonsense may transpire, and then it's like, I never hear from you again. I didn't understand why someone would want to do that to me when I didn't do anything to warrant that. I was trying to rationalize it, not knowing at all that some guys just do. Some people just do that. And I'm not even just limiting this to just male-female relationships. It doesn't matter. It goes for same-sex couples too. It doesn't matter what you are, right? Whatever your relationship dynamic is. And I learned that. And I learned it because I had my own experience with that too. You know what I mean? And I realized that it didn't matter. That's when I understood that it didn't matter what type of relationship you were in. If the person was an a-hole, they were an a-hole. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. Male, female, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of opened myself up to that because I didn't, like, it opened my eyes. You know what I'm saying? You live and you learn. And I think I got to the point where I just really wanted to be loved by somebody, anybody, which isn't the healthy way to approach love or relationships. When you just want to feel loved and wanted by somebody. You didn't care who it was, whoever it is, whoever shows up and showed you enough attention, wanted to be with you, and even maybe appeared that they loved you. Even if they said that they loved you, it's like, okay, that's who I need to be with. I didn't care who you were, right? And that's obviously, that just reflected the brokenness inside of me. So when me and my last boyfriend broke up, I felt low. And I thought, here we go again, another one bites the dust. You know what I mean? And I just thought, it's me. Something is going on energetically. And I have to get a handle on this. Like, I just don't, you know what I mean? So I did meet one person who I consider like the one who got away, you know? And I say that because that person has moved on and married, whatever, all that stuff. But when we did meet, he was newly single, and I was completely single. Had been single for about a year or two, at the time, a year and a half, and he had freshly single, maybe just for a number of months, really. And then we met, and we hit it off, like, really, like, you know, he was in town for you know, training and stuff like that, and we had a really nice time. And you know, we dated for 2 months, his last 2 months in the state, and then, you know, we left, and we had a great time. We had incredible chemistry. We really enjoyed each other's company. He really enjoyed my company, and that was like the first time I was even just dealing with anybody. We weren't even in a committed relationship. We were just casually seeing each other. But that was the first time I actually felt like, I think this person really does like me. Like, this person really does enjoy my company. I mean, he listened to my stories. He was completely enthralled at the fact that I grew up in another country and spoke a different language, even though it's a little rusty. He was totally okay with, you know, other issues, you know, baggage that came with me or whatever. And he was so open. And he says that I opened his eyes, and that he felt like he was more of a shallow person until he met me, and then he felt like, wow, you know what I mean, this person's like the total opposite of everything that I would normally want to go for, even what I would believe to be true. And she's like the total opposite, and I'm totally feeling it, you know. And so we dated for 2 months. We had a great time, great chemistry, great passion, fiery. It was like, everything was amazing. And then in the end, he wasn't my person, though. He just, you know, he ended up with somebody else, and bless, you know what I mean? We still have nothing but love for each other and respect for each other, and it's all good, you know what I mean? And in the last decade, I think I've maybe seen him 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. When I'm in his state, you know, traveling, you know, might stop for lunch, and, you know, whatever, we may see each other, we may not. It's irrelevant, but bless, he's doing well. And that experience set a different tone for me, and it made me think that, wow, there are actually really good, honorable guys out there who do fit my type, you know, who I consider handsome and really kind and funny, and, you know, he, you know, could dress, and just, you know, just really inviting. And I appreciated that. And I thought, and this guy liked me and he liked me, you know? So it started to kind of change my perspective about maybe what I could bring to the table a little bit more. And so, after me and my friend got together and we ended up breaking up in 2012, and I started asking those questions about what is it about me? What's going on with me? I started reading books and trying to just kind of about relationships and about like self care books or self help books at the time, and just learning more about me. And I just said I'm just not gonna deal with anybody. I'm not gonna deal with anybody for at least 6 months to a year. And maybe 13 months in of me not dealing with anybody, I mean nobody. I think I went on like one date like that January. After I had decided that September, I went on like one date and he fell asleep. We went to the movies and he fell asleep. So, needless to say, we didn't talk again. Like nothing transpired. It was like, take me home. And that was that. And I just didn't deal with anybody. Didn't go out on any dates. Didn't talk to anybody. There's no hanky panky, like nothing. You know what I mean? Nothing. And this one guy popped back up, who I had known for like 5 or 6 years. And he was literally in my life again for exactly 30 days. Like exactly 30 days. Like from October 1st, and by October 30th, he was gone again. And I was reminded, this is why we never became anything. This is why. Because I can't with you. It was just like oil and water. And I'm like, I can't even deal. I couldn't even make it to the 31st of October. Yeah. The first 2 weeks were cool. By the last 2 weeks, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with you. Goodbye. Don't call me ever again. And it just kind of stopped after that. And it stopped completely ever since. And we're about to go and cross over into 2022 here in a couple hours. And I am still single. And I have my moments where sometimes I'm like, oh, this kind of doesn't feel great. But then I have a lot more moments where I'm like, this is pretty awesome. And I'll tell you why, because this video is already like 37 minutes and I don't want to make it cross over to an hour. But I just want to acknowledge being alone, because people don't give being alone enough credit. And when I say I've been single, I mean that I have not had a boyfriend since 2012 when me and my ex broke up, since September of 2012. And I've been on maybe 2 dates since then. And in terms of hanky panky, if you're curious, 9 times from 2012 to December 31st of 2021. So I know you're probably like, damn, how are you still alive? I know, right? But it just hasn't, and most times it's just with a friend of mine, which is like on occasion, just a friend who I've known for several, well over a decade, so about 15 plus years, once in a blue moon. You know what I mean? And that's it. And even with that, with the occasional, hanky panky, it's still not fully fulfilling. Like it's still mediocre. You know what I mean? So even just with that, I guess I haven't had a lot of experiences where, someone just like blew my socks off. You know what I mean? So I don't even have this insatiable need or desire to even just want to keep somebody around just for the sake of sex either, because it's not like I've had enough great sex to even really desire to have more like that. You know what I mean? If you feel me, leave it in the comments if you know what I'm saying. Okay. So I've been single all of this time. And what it's done for me, it's given me a lot of time to work on myself. I started really getting more into metaphysics, especially in 2016, where I just like surrendered everything. I was going to therapy, started going to therapy in like 2017, 2018. I went for a couple of years. And when I felt like I was ready, after I had done a lot of work on myself, and I really started asking myself serious questions, I started diving deep into my personal trauma. I started addressing my childhood trauma again. I started working on forgiveness, which is still like a work in progress for me. And that's one of the things that I'm going to write down to let go of going into next year, is to just let go of any, regret, guilt, resentment, trauma, anything that's, blocking the flow of divine energy, anything that's blocking my chakras, you know what I mean? And it's just time to like, just let it all go. And I really surrendered in 2016 to all things. And that's when I really got serious about my spiritual journey and started just learning more about me, about how we are. Like, remember, we're energetic beings. We are spirit having a human experience. And it helped me start working on my own worthiness. I started watching Roxy Talks, and I've been showing up for her Mindset Mondays for like the last almost 2 years now. And I just appreciate her videos and her content. And I've done so many of her workshops. I did her specific person workshop. Even though I didn't have a specific person, I did her workshop. I purchased it and I did it. And when I did it, was like in 2020, early 2020, maybe like summer of 2020, I did it. And that's when I realized that I don't know if it's like, do I really want to be with somebody? Like, do I want to be in a relationship because I truly desire that companionship, or do I want it because I think I'm supposed to want it, especially as a woman? And I've never asked myself that question before. And asking that question, it opened up a whole new set of questions. Like, well, I don't know. Do I really want to be in a relationship? I don't know. But it shifted it from feeling like I had to be in one, like I felt for several years, like this is where you're supposed to be in one. You know what I mean? My entire dating career, or my dating life, I should say, from the age of 19 to age of 29, I thought that you aspire to be in a relationship. You aspire to have a companion. You aspire to make sure you got a warm body next to you. You aspire to hopefully get married and have kids and do that whole thing. But then after taking this specific person workshop, I was like, but do I really want to do that though? Because I learned to love my peace so much. I know a lot of people get intimidated at being by yourself, at being single, because I think sometimes being single, you get a bad rap. Because I'm 39, I'm single, I have no children, you know what I mean? And sometimes, even when I was in my 20s and just didn't have any kids, you know what I mean? And if I was single at the time, I would have guys be like, oh, so what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? What? What? Or it's like, well, why don't you have any kids at least? Or why are you single? Or why don't you have, you know what I mean? And I was like, because I don't have any. You know what I'm saying? And I started really thinking about that. And I just started asking myself, well, do I really want to be with somebody? Do I really want a relationship? And then I realized, you know what? Eureka. Having a relationship is a choice, just like anything else. I can choose to want to be with somebody, or I can choose to not want to be with anybody. I can choose to be single, or I can choose to make myself available. I can choose to just want to date casually with no strings attached. I can choose to just want somebody to sleep with, to just have not even a friend, not even friends, but just someone who I just simply call just to have some naked nonsense. Like I can do that. I can choose to do that too. Or I can just choose to stay where I'm at and do what I'm doing and just be by myself and just let God and the universe work that out. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that, because I actually do have a desire to be coupled with somebody. Yeah, I do. Contrary to any popular belief that may circulate around me, because I have been single for so long. It's like, oh girl, you just want to be single then, because you don't have to be single if you don't want to. You're absolutely right. I don't have to be single if I don't want to. But I'm not opposed to being in a relationship either. Where I am today, I'm open actually to being in a relationship. But I now know, by having so much time by myself and having an opportunity to observe how dating has changed over the last 10 years, it's been really, really eye-opening. It's been incredibly eye-opening. And I've learned a lot. I've learned what I don't want so much that I have a pretty solid what I do want list. There's not any um indecisiveness on my part anymore. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know exactly what I want. And I am not this Tiffany. I am not in the business of settling for anyone or anything. I'm not taking anyone's breadcrumbs anymore. I am not going to be your second or third or fourth option. I'm just not going to do the things that I fell for and subscribed to when I was in my 20s, from the age of 19 to 29, not knowing any better. On all of that, just trial and error. I've tried, I've erred, and I've learned. Okay? I'm not making those same mistakes anymore. I know why I did those things. I know why I was so needy and clingy, and would feel some type of way if they didn't act a certain way that I needed them to behave. And like, I just learned so much about me. And because I learned so much about me and about who I am as a person and as a single person, I'm able to be very clear about what I do want when I want it. So I am not desperate. I used to act desperate. I did a lot. I did way too much, way too soon. I was cooking meals. I was buying gifts. I was doing all this stuff within a matter of days or weeks of knowing the guys, like, because I didn't know. I didn't know anything. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just telling you my experience and how it led for me, the results that I was getting. I was not getting positive results by doing that. If you get positive results by doing that, bless. Do you, boo-boo. Amen. Okay? I mean, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And I'm rooting for you. I'm happy for you. But that just wasn't my story. I was getting just negative results that way. So I've learned that I'm just not going to tolerate certain things. And I know some people tell me that I'm standoffish. Some people say that your energy says, don't talk to me. Some people, I've been told that I'm intimidating. And I was like, me, of all people, I'm like the goofiest person. Like, are you kidding me? But I guess maybe to guys, maybe that's okay. If that's the vibe that they pick up, I don't know, because I don't think that I am. I may be sure about what I want. And maybe if they know that they're about to be on some BS and some game, they may energetically feel that, okay, she's about to sniff me out and she's not to be messed with. So let me just not even deal with her. Possibly that could be it too. Because I have no interest in wasting my time or wasting anybody else's time. So I'm not going to pretend and put on airs like, okay, well, we could just go out just to get a free dinner. I mean, I don't like him. He's not my type. Nothing about him is attractive to me, but I mean, he's going to buy me dinner. So I'll just do, absolutely not. I'm not wasting my time, or I'm not wasting your time to do that. I'm not going to do that. There's nothing wrong with people who choose to do that. I'm just not going to do that, because that's not in alignment with who I am right now as a person. I'm not doing that. If I don't like you, if I have nothing, there's no connection, if I don't find you, if I'm not attracted to you, I'm not going to do that. And I don't believe that I have to settle. I believe I can have what I want. I believe I can have my definition of a healthy relationship, because I can be, do or have whatever I want. I just have to decide that I want it and put in the energetic frequency and unblock these channels that's going to allow the universe to go out and find the perfect person for me. Okay? Because I don't believe that you have to have crappy relationships. Like people say that all the time. Well, nobody's perfect. You have to, have bad relationships. It's going to happen. According to, says who? You can have disagreements with your partner and still maintain a wonderful, loving relationship. You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight in your relationships. That's an expectation. That's an assumption. You can decide that my relationship, we're not going to fight. We're not going to fight. We are going to have enough respect for each other and understanding of each other where there is no sense of ownership. I've learned that too. I'm not entitled to you, to your body, to your mind. I'm not entitled to your time, which is something I learned from my friend, and I talked about it in one of my previous videos about relationships and entitlement. I'm not entitled to you just because you choose to rendezvous with me. I don't own you. I don't want to own my partner, and my partner's not going to own me. We are going to make a conscious decision that we want to exclusively rendezvous with each other until we no longer want to rendezvous with each other anymore. And then blessed, we're going to be on our way and it's going to be amicable. I have already set that intention, and that's what I'm deciding is what's going to happen. And if we never decide that we never want to not rendezvous with each other, then till death do us part. But I'm not taking that approach that I used to take anymore of ownership. And I'm not a jealous person really anyway. So I never really worried about, I wasn't the person going through anybody's phone or whatever. I'm like, if I have to do that, then we don't need to be together. And I decided that years ago, back at my lowest point. I've gained a little bit more self-esteem, gained a bit more confidence. And while I still have work to do on the worthiness area and just knowing that I deserve to be loved and that I deserve to be in a happy, loving relationship, in a healthy relationship, and that I deserve just as much love as the next person. I'm still working on that, just deprogramming stuff is a work in progress, but I'm getting better and better at it every day. And the more I observe other people's dynamics and other people's relationships and the things that certain people tolerate, and the mayhem, the chaos, the foolishness, the emotional abuse and the emotional detriment that they cause each other in this dynamic of ownership and this entitlement. Like, I want you, I feel like I'm entitled to everything that you are, everything that you get, your body, your time, your love, but I don't want to be with you though. I don't want to commit to you, but I feel like I'm entitled to everything that comes, all the good stuff that comes with being with you. Absolutely not. No way, no how. I'm not subscribing to that. We are all on our separate journey. So if you subscribe to that currently, it's because you're meant to. You're meant to learn something from it. And when the student is ready, the teacher will come type of situation. You know what I'm saying? I just learned from being alone and really studying myself, studying my triggers, and learning that because of what I've been through, because of the type of recovery and emotional and mental recovery, and the learning to how to trust love itself, not to trust people, not to, or whatever, but to trust love, the emotion of love in itself, which stemmed back from childhood, that just my association with love was always something negative, was always pain. And so I have to deprogram myself to learn that I can trust love itself, right? I'm working on that. So because of who I am and what my recovery is and my process is, I know that I have to be loved in a very specific way. I also know that the person who is going to love me has to have the emotional and mental capacity to love me the way I require love to be given. I understand that not everybody is emotionally equipped to love you the way you need to be loved. right? And so I understand that now because I learned that about myself. I learned that there's a very specific way that I need to be loved. There's a specific way, there's a specific language, there's just a very specific way, there's specific things that I need to have from my partner that will equate to me feeling loved. And vice versa, right? Because my intention is to be able to love that person, my partner, whoever that ends up being, in a way that that partner needs to be loved in order to feel loved, right? These are conversations that need to be had from the jump, in my opinion. Like, I understand some people want to go really slow, some people want to go, some people go at their own pace, whatever the speed is, that's fine. But I now have my own personal list of questions that have to be answered. Like, otherwise, there's no point. There are things that matter deeply to me. It's very, very, very important that I'm with somebody who is a complete judgment free zone. Like, I have to feel safe with the person. I have to feel secure. I have to feel honored and loved and cherished. I have to feel heard, and I have to feel seen. I have to feel like this person sees me. Me, the true me, sees me and has the capacity to love me, right? The real me internally, not just what's on the outside, but what is inside, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want to reciprocate that. So being on the outside of the dating pool, and it's really hilarious to me because a lot of my friends come to me for dating advice, and I always find that hilarious, and I tell them all the time, okay, let's get this straight here. I am like one of your few friends who has been single, right? And I'm probably the only friend who who's been single for this long, and yet I'm the one you want advice from. It's hilarious to me. And they're like, well, you have a different perspective because you're not with anybody. You have an completely unbiased view. You could look at this objectively. And they tell me the situation, and I just interpret it my way from what it looks to me on the outside. And then a lot of times it helps. Bless. I've learned a lot about emotions. I've learned a lot about how we function as human beings, the beautiful complexities of being human, dealing with feelings and emotions and psychology and just wanting to be seen, wanting to be loved, wanting to be nurtured and appreciated for who we are, and not being loved with so many conditions and constraints. Like, I've learned all of that in this decade of just being single and just like being by myself. And yeah, I have my moments where I'm like daydreaming, like, wedding, babies. Yes, that'll be great. Especially when so many people around me are getting married and having kids and having families and doing things, and they're coupled up and they booed up and all that. Yeah, I have that feeling sometimes when I'm like, And then I'm like, it'll come. It'll come. I don't put a whole lot of emphasis on, I don't really script about love and finding relationships. I just kind of really leave that up to God and the universe. It's like, look, I would love to be with somebody. I want to be married. I want to have kids. You figure it out. And I leave it alone. And that could be part of the reason why I don't receive, a lot of, people don't hit on me. I don't get a lot of attention or anything like that either. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I know that it's me, and that I'm in some sort of like maybe limbo currently, and that there's more blockages that need to be broken down, because I know that I'm better than some of the riffraff that I used to settle for, and then just the mess I would put up with and tolerate just for the sake of somebody liking me, because I was so broken and had so much low self-esteem and lack of self-worth. I'm better than that. So that's a hard no. So that is not, you're not getting none of my time. But there's still a part of me that doesn't fully feel worthy or good enough to have the relationship that I really, really desire. So I'm just kind of in this limbo space where I don't have anybody. I don't have the riffraff, and I don't have the great loving, ideal candidacy either. So I'm just kind of like in this weird limbo of it's probably confusing the universe, but so I need to like get it together and really focus and clean out a lot of this mess so that I can actually manifest and call forth the love that I really desire and deserve, right? Um so that's what I've learned in my decade. I know we're at an hour already, and hopefully YouTube will let me upload this being an hour long, but I definitely just wanted to share my story. It's the end of the year, and I wanted to just share how it's been for me being different, a little different, coming from a different country, and just not taking a long time to fit in, and just kind of having problems with dating, just being told that you're not good enough. You're not good enough for a multitude of reasons. Or whatever, you're too nice, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not whatever, and just or you're doing too much, or you're too this, you're too that, you're whatever, just all of these compounding things to kind of reiterate the feelings I already had about myself of not being good enough and not being worthy. And so just having to really break out of that, and then using people around me, and then just life in general, just watching, even just like on social media or whatever, just watching some of the drama play out with relationships and situationships and entanglements is the new word, right? And just all these different things, and then just observing with no judgment, just watching like, this is so interesting. Why? But why though? Like, I find myself asking why a whole lot more. I'm just not taking something as face value. Oh, well, it's because I love this person. Oh, because oh my God, but this person gets on my damn nerves. Oh my God, I can't stand. Oh my God, this woman is crazy. She gets on my damn nerves, but I'm gonna have another kid with her. Oh my God, I can't stand this man. He is such a jerk. Oh my gosh, but we're gonna still go to Honolulu for vacation together. Or oh my God, I cannot stand this dude. He's such a big flirt. He has a wandering eye. He gets on my last nerves. But I am going to still, allow him into my space and my energy, and I'm still going to be there for him. I'm still going to do all these things. And it's just, again, no judgment. I'm just saying these are like real life situations, and I see the emotional turmoil that it causes. And my thoughts are like, well, why don't you just stop? Like, just, you don't have to deal with these people. You don't have to subject yourself to that emotional turmoil. It doesn't mean that you love them any less. I mean, bless, you know what I'm saying? You can love people from afar. You know what I'm saying? And I know that, we do it with friends, we do it with family. So you can do it with someone who's significant, who romantically in your life, whether it's, a full-fledged like matrimony, or if it's just casual hookups or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to allow that person to consume so much of your being, where all you think about constantly, morning, noon, and night, is this person and or these particular people, what they're doing and what they're not doing, and who they're dealing with or who they're not dealing with, or are they telling you the truth, or are they lying to you? Do you trust them? Do you not trust them? Do they honor you? Are they not honoring you? Are you respecting them? Are they respecting you? Are they like, it just seems so much. And I see in the community, especially in the manifestation or law of attraction and metaphysical community, just as a whole, just a lot of content is based on romantic relationships, and just some of the headlines that you see, they blow my mind. Like, I don't know if it's like clickbait or whatever, but it's just usually like, newsflash, this person is going crazy about you, or this person is doing this, or this person is feeling so awful, this person is doing this, or this person's going to try to come back in, but you ain't go. It's just like it's like, oh my God, you're like inundated with more just content, I guess, and maybe evidence for some people of how lousy it is to be in a relationship, or how difficult it has to be in a relationship. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't. Remember, you create your own reality. It doesn't have to be hard. You can step into a reality right now. You can just decide that all of your relationships are harmonious. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, whether they work out or not, that's okay too, because we all have free will, right? Like, sometimes our person just isn't our person, right? But it can still dissolve harmoniously. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have harmonious relationships, and you can have lasting harmonious relationships if that's what you really want to. Like, you don't have to subscribe. There's that word again. You don't have to subscribe to the stories that say relationships are hard. Relationships take work. Relationships are not easy. Relationships are complicated. Relationships are so complex. Relationships are so difficult. Relationships can be so. You don't have to subscribe to that story, because I don't subscribe to that story anymore. I don't, because it's not about the relationship. It's about me, and it's about how I show up for myself, because how I show up for myself is going to be a reflection. Like, the person who shows up is a reflection of how I show up for myself. And I want to show up for myself the best way I possibly can, so that this best version of me is going to attract the best version of whoever my partner is going to be. That's a me thing. That's something I got to work on. That's a Tiffany issue, right? It has nothing to do with the other person, because the other person is just reflecting back to me who I really am on the inside. And I think I've really, really understood that the whole "everyone is you pushed out" thing is that every person who was in my life, every relationship I had, they were a direct reflection of who I was on the inside, the part of me that I didn't want to address. I felt unworthy. I didn't feel like I was enough. I felt really low. I had low self-esteem, extremely insecure. I was a people pleaser. I felt like I couldn't do anything right, and I had to work extra hard to make them like me. And guess what? Every single person who showed up in my life, who I had a relationship with, or even maybe a long-term courtship or whatever, who I was dating, 99% of them showed up with those same exact attributes. Those exact attributes. Okay? They treated me unfairly. They didn't appreciate me. They made me feel like, they further reiterated my sense of unworthiness. They were selfish. They were so not thoughtful. They were very, very, very selfish and unthoughtful. They blamed me for everything. They always told me I wasn't enough of something. It was always something. And the crazy thing is that it was exactly how I felt about myself. They were just mirroring. They were the internal me put in a human body. They were showing me everything that I had going on with me, everything that I needed to address and heal inside of me. They were the human form of that. They personified all the negative chatter, all the negative narratives that I had inside of me about me. That's who they were. I know that now. So my inner voice, my sense, my self-concept, it has to be high. I have to think highly of myself if I'm going to attract someone, right, who will also think highly of me, because they're just going to mirror back how I feel about me. So if I think highly of myself, if I believe that I'm worthy of love and respect, and I deserve to be honored and cherished and appreciated and loved on and all those wonderful things, if I believe that about me, then of course the universal laws have to abide by what I feel about me. And they're going to bring me a partner who is a mirror image to what I feel about me. That is the biggest lesson that I have learned by being single for the last decade. As within, so without, right? So I know this was a long video, probably the longest video I've done. And I want to thank you so much if you watched to the end. I hope this helped you. I don't want you to be afraid of being single. And I don't want you to be afraid of being in relationships. Embrace your singleness and embrace wanting to be coupled. There's nothing wrong with that. Do whatever works for you. But at the end of the day, remember, it is all about how you feel in here. And how you feel in here sets the tone for who shows up out here in your life, right? And that goes for everything. As within, so without. Whatever you feel about yourself is 100% reflected back into your life. And it's going to be how people treat you. People treat you the way you internally feel about you. Can't be any other way. So, bless if you're single. Bless if you're coupled. I wish you nothing but the best. And I appreciate you stopping by. Have a fantastic new year. A blessed 2022. I will try to be more consistent. That is one of my goals, to be more consistent in uploading videos when I get inspired to talk about new things. Shout out to all the people who make videos every day and always have something new to say and talk about. I don't think my life is that exciting, but I will. I'm learning new things all the time. So I am definitely going to make a bigger effort in being more consistent in making regular, weekly videos, even maybe 2 videos a week, 1 video a week, and just doing better at that next year. Because there is more concerts next year. And so I'm in the process of manifesting some front row seats to some concerts. So I will be back to be talking about that later on in the year, into the spring of 2022, between March and May of 2022. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped you, uplifted you, inspired you, empowered you, all of the above. Stay safe, be blessed. Mwah. Namaste to you all. Take care.